In today's episode of Humble History, we will discuss the life of Emperor Menelik II, one of the most notable rulers in modern Ethiopian history. Who was Menilik and how did he come to power? Stick around and find out in the following episode of Humble History. Let's get into it right now. Menilik was born in 1844 during the time of Zemene Mesafint, also known as the Era of Princes. This was a tumultuous time in Ethiopian history when the power of the Ethiopian emperor was undermined. In this period, regional lords took power for themselves. It was during this time that Menilik's grandfather took hold of the region of Shawa and declared it an independent state with himself as king, a tradition that Menilik's father continued. However, this would change the rise of Emperor Tewodros in 1855. Emperor Tewodros put an end to the era of princes and led major campaigns to restore the power of the monarchy. He believed in a strong central government and reduced the power of regional lords. In Tewodros's world, quasi-independent states like Shawa would not be tolerated. The emperor took his army to Shawa in 1856 and fought Menilik's father. His father refused to relent his title, and he was killed in battle. The emperor took the young boy Menilik, aged 12, as his captive and raised him as his own. Menilik grew up attending Tewodros's court, receiving an education in the church and learning of war and politics. Although he was enjoying the life of a prince, he was still in the strange predicament of being raised by the man who killed his father. When he was an adult, Menilik and a few loyal to him escaped the stronghold of Tewodros and fled to his home in the region of Shawa. It would have been hard for Tewodros to fetch Menilik at this point of his reign. Tewodros was surrounded on all sides by his enemies. His harsh policy towards centralization had pitted him against almost all the nobles in his empire. Externally, he had placed himself in a battle against English forces. This culminated in the emperor's defeat and suicide. In the midst of all this, Menilik had secured Shawa. He would use Shawa as his foundation for his claim to the Ethiopian throne. After Tewodros' death, the new emperor Yohannes IV took the throne through military might, and he had no intention to give it up. However, Emperor Yohannes was preoccupied with his battles with the invading Egyptians. While Yohannes was away, Menilik invaded the lands near Shawa, moving north and eventually taking the fortress of Magdala. It is easy to imagine Menelik's growing confidence in himself. However, this would not last. Emperor Yohannes defeated the Egyptian army and was now marching down to deal with Menilik. Their battles did not last long. Both number and firearm advantage was with Yohannes. Menilik submitted within a few days of battle. He agreed to Yohannes' term in what was later called the Lecce Agreement. During his surrender, Menilik had to carry the ceremonial stone of repentance before prostrating himself in front of the emperor. Asmaris mocked him in their songs the entire time. It is not hard to believe that this would have been Menelik's end had this happened during the reign of Emperor Tewodros. However, Yohannes believed in regional suzerainty. He wanted Menilik to continue to rule Shawa, not as a king but rather as his vassal. This was a position that Menilik gladly accepted. However, his actions would later show that he had little intention of staying loyal. Menilik knew he had to expand, but was painfully aware that he could no longer move north into the emperor's territory. Therefore, he expanded to the south. He began his expansion southwest into the Gurage region. Menelik's expansion here would mark the two styles that would inevitably take place. The first was a peaceful submission, such as the northern Gurage, and the other was submission through combat, which was the fate of the western Gurage. As Menilik expanded south, he was met with challenge from the ruler of Godjam, who had similar ambitions of expanding his rule. The two forces met at the Battle of Imbabo. Although the Godjam force had superior firearms, Menelik's men triumphed over their enemy through the use of their cavalry. The success at Imbabo was Menelik's ticket to the southwestern expansion. For the next 5 years, his forces received submission from one ruler to the other in the region. Menelik's expansion south cemented him as the only challenge against Emperor Yohannes. Although Menelik's expansion southwest was met with little challenge, his expansion southeast was the exact opposite. The kingdoms of Arsi proved to be stubborn holdouts, fighting to the last man. Their war lasted 5 years, Menelik fighting in some of the battles and almost losing his life in one of them. However, Arsi failed to resist the invasion. The war ended in the Battle of Azul in 1886. Arsi proved to be the stepping stone towards Harar, the commercial capital of eastern Ethiopia. The Egyptians left Harar in 1885, and this led to the revival of the local emir's power. However, Menilik believed it was only a matter of time until a European force would move in to take the city. He had to move fast. When the emir's men attacked members of an Italian expedition in the region, Menilik used this justification to take the lands without the Europeans questioning his claim. He was able to take Harar within a year of taking Arsi. He placed his cousin Ras Makonnen as governor. Menilik turned the city into the most important location for his weapons trade, and soon Harar became the most profitable endeavor for Menilik. Menilik was no match for the Emperor Yohannes. However, it would seem that all external challenges were working against the Emperor Yohannes. Yohannes had defeated an invading Egyptian force, but now an Italian force had landed in the north. Their intention was not perceived positively by the emperor. However, he had a more urgent problem to deal with. From Sudan, the Mahdist movement had emerged, and this movement saw Ethiopia as their enemy. Emperor Yohannes spent almost all his time dealing with this new threat. In the meantime, Menilik found an ally with the Italians. The Italians were there to expand their colony. They believed supporting Menilik would weaken Yohannes's reign. In 1887, Menilik signed an agreement with the Italians, promising neutrality in any potential conflict between Yohannes and the Italians. In return, Menilik would receive 5,000 rifles from the Italians. Menilik had little intention of fighting the emperor. Even though Emperor Yohannes had intended to attack Menilik for his dealings with the Italians, it was a battle that would never happen. Yohannes had his hands full with the Mahdists. Although he won the battle against the Mahdists, it was a fight that cost him his life. The emperor died in 1888. It was clear that Menilik was the strongest contender for the throne. The following year, he crowned himself Emperor of Ethiopia. Stay tuned for more on Menilik's reign as Emperor of Ethiopia. Please like and subscribe for more videos on African history and mythology. I'm your host Efrata Warku, and this episode was written by Adam Sahalu. We'll see you on the next episode.